Saudi Arabia has lost a legal bid in the United States over the 9/11 terror attacks. Families of those killed and thousands who suffered injuries accuse Saudi of helping plan the 2001 attacks. 15 of the 19 terrorists were Saudi citizens. The government denies any involvement, but a judge has dismissed an attempt to have the case thrown out. Let's go straight to Steve Mort, who joins me now from Washington. Steve, who does this ruling allow to be a part of this lawsuit?
Well, it's a pretty broad swath, in fact, that can join the plaintiffs here. Some 25,000 people who are estimated to have been injured in the 9/11 attacks. Also, the families of the some 3,000 people who were killed on September 11th, 2001. It also impacts businesses, not only in the Twin Towers, but also in the surrounding area that may have been affected in the aftermath of the attacks, and also insurers who lost, of course, a lot of money, millions of dollars. This allows the plaintiffs to sue Saudi Arabia for millions of dollars in damages and to recoup some of those costs. And of course, all this is possible because of a congressional override of a veto against the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act. President Obama had previously vetoed that, saying that it exposed officials, companies, U.S. military personnel overseas should suits be bought, but Congress overrode that presidential veto in 2016, allowing cases like this to go ahead. Of course, it'll be an important test case. Many people will be watching this to see which way it goes and whether it could lead to future cases. Saudi Arabia, of course, denies any involvement. There was no comment from Saudi officials today following this ruling. However, the plaintiffs, through their attorney, say they're delighted.
What exactly are the plaintiffs trying to show that Saudi did?
Well, the plaintiffs are trying to show that Saudi Arabia provided support for al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. And there's focus specifically on two individual characters. One of those is an imam in California, in Culver City, California, and another is an intelligence officer in the United States. Now, what it's alleged is that those two individuals provided support, they provided cover and acclimation, or allowed two of the hijackers to acclimate to their life in the United States. Now, clearly, that's a very difficult thing to prove. This is going to take some time, but what it now allows is the plaintiffs to go into discovery. They can now gather evidence they need from the Saudi side that'll be compelled by the court to provide the evidence that the plaintiffs require. But it's going to be key to trying to show that there was some form of material support that led in some demonstrable way to the attacks being able to be carried out. And that's why this is such an important test case, because the way this case goes could be used as a blueprint for future similar cases.
And this was quite controversial, again, when this was decided a while back, too, because a lot of lawmakers worried on both sides of the aisle that this would set a really troubling legal precedent for people to sue governments going forward. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, traditionally, of course, governments have been immune. There's a whole raft of international law, of course, which allows foreign officials to claim immunity, both here in the United States, but also protects them from suits against nation states, for example, or individuals within the government. That's a very tricky legal framework to work around. And of course, at the time, the White House in 2016 had said that it opposed this particular act that had been passed by Congress. It was very popular publicly, but the White House has said that, you know, look, this makes us vulnerable elsewhere. This makes U.S. officials, U.S. military, and U.S. companies susceptible to reciprocal action in other places around the world. And if you allow this kind of legal action to take place against a foreign entity in the United States, who's to say that other countries will not allow similar action to take place against U.S. entities? The other big geopolitical problem here is, of course, Saudi Arabia is a very close ally of the United States. And the United States has had improving relations with Saudi Arabia, particularly under President Trump. Saudi Arabia was the first foreign trip for President Trump, and this administration has leaned on the Saudis a lot to apply pressure for example, to Iran. So it's got geopolitical ramifications as well as political ones.